According to FEMA, nearly 60% of American households do not have enough food stored to last through a 72-hour emergency. Not a month, not a week, 72 hours, 3 days. And that number was recorded during calm times, not during the moment when a storm is already cutting power, a supply chain is already slowing down, or the store down the street is already showing empty shelves. Now here is the thing. This video is not about collapse. It is not about bunkers or extreme scenarios or convincing you that the world is ending. It is about something much simpler and much more honest. What happens to an ordinary household when ordinary systems slow down for just a few days? What do you actually wish you had prepared, not in some extreme survivalist fantasy, but in the quiet, ordinary kitchen of a real family, with real people who are tired, maybe a little scared, and just trying to eat? That is what this list is about. 15 foods to stockpile before crisis hits, not chosen randomly, not chosen because they sound impressive, but chosen because each one fills a specific gap in a real-world pantry. Energy, protein, fat, flavor, medical need, morale, and the one thing almost nobody puts on these lists that can render everything else useless if you do not have it. You probably already have 3 or 4 of these in your kitchen right now. But I will tell you right now, you are almost certainly storing at least 2 of them wrong. And the very first item, number 15, is something almost everyone overlooks entirely. It weighs less than a smartphone. It costs under $10. And on the right day, it could be the most important thing in your house. Let's count down. Item 15, hard candy and glucose tablets. The 30-second emergency. Start with something small. Very small. And easy to overlook because it sounds like a treat. Hard candy and glucose tablets are the only items on this list that can reverse a medical emergency in under 60 seconds. That sentence deserves to sit for a moment. If someone in your household is diabetic, elderly, a young child, or simply someone who has gone too long without food, the technical term is hypoglycemia. The practical reality is this: a person becomes shaky, confused, pale, and suddenly unable to function, and it can escalate quickly to something far more serious. At that moment, you do not need a full meal. You need fast sugar. You need it in your hand in under 10 seconds. Glucose tablets are more precise than candy. One tablet delivers exactly 4 grams of fast carbohydrates. A pack of 50 costs under $8 and fits in a pocket. But even a simple bag of hard candy, individually wrapped, easy to store, long shelf life of 1 to 2 years, serves the same basic function and adds something that no other food on this list provides quite as well: morale and comfort for children. Here is what most people completely miss about this item. Hard candy is also one of the most practical barter items in an extended disruption. Small, universally understood, divisible, and something almost everyone wants, especially when children are involved. A small bag takes up almost no space in your pantry and costs almost nothing. The mistake people make is thinking of this as optional. It is not optional if your household has a diabetic, a young child, or an elderly person. It is a medical supply that also happens to taste good. Keep it in a cool, dry place away from heat. Individually wrapped candies last the longest. Rotate them into daily life so they do not go forgotten. The fast emergency is covered. Now let's talk about a slower, quieter emergency that almost nobody prepares for. Item 14, instant coffee, tea, and comfort beverage. The morale infrastructure. After emergency response teams assessed the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, one of the consistent findings in survivor interviews was this: the items people reported missing most desperately were not always food. They were warmth, routine, and something familiar to hold in their hands in the morning. A hot cup of coffee. A cup of tea. Something that says the world has not completely stopped. This is not a trivial psychological observation. Morale is a resource. When morale collapses in a household, decision-making deteriorates, patience runs out faster, tension rises, and people start making choices they would never make on an ordinary day. The Red Cross explicitly includes comfort items in its extended emergency preparedness recommendations, and instant coffee and tea bags are mentioned specifically. Instant coffee sachets, herbal tea bags, hot cocoa powder, powdered lemonade, or even just a container of powdered hot chocolate. These items cost almost nothing, take up almost no space, store for 1 to 3 years depending on the product, and require nothing more than hot water, or in a real pinch, warm water. Here is the angle most stockpile videos skip entirely. You are not storing caffeine. You are storing the feeling that normal life still exists. And for an elderly parent, a child who is scared and confused, or a household that has been managing a crisis for 3 days with no end in sight, that feeling is worth more than calories. Pro tip: instant coffee in sealed foil sachets is more shelf-stable than the big open tin you probably have in your kitchen right now. Buy the individual sachets. They also become a generous, easy-to-share item if circumstances change. Keep comfort beverages with your pantry essentials, not as an afterthought. They are infrastructure, not luxury. Comfort for the mind is covered. But what about the food that has no flavor at all? Item 13. Apple cider vinegar, the flavor transformer nobody talks about. Here is a pattern interrupt before we go further. Most stockpile videos list the same items in the same order. Rice, beans, canned food, water, done. And if you follow that list, you will have calories. But you will not have meals. And there is a meaningful difference between those two things, especially after day 4. Apple cider vinegar is one of the least discussed items in any preparedness pantry, and it is one of the most practically valuable. A single 32-ounce bottle costs under $5, lasts 2 or more years unopened, and can transform the way dozens of meals taste and feel. Think about what you are eating during a crisis: rice, beans, canned fish, noodles, more beans, more rice. Every meal from the same narrow rotation of flavors. By day 5, the food starts to feel punishing even when it is nutritionally adequate. Apple cider vinegar introduces acid, and acid is the flavor dimension almost entirely absent from dry pantry cooking. A few drops over a bowl of beans makes them taste bright and fresh. A splash into a pot of lentil soup rounds out the flavor in a way that is hard to describe, but immediately noticeable. Mixed with oil, salt, and garlic powder, it becomes an instant dressing or marinade that makes canned chicken taste like something you actually want to eat. Apple cider vinegar also has documented antimicrobial properties. It has been used historically as a mild preservative and surface cleaner. Sprinkling it lightly over cut vegetables can slow spoilage and extend their usable life by 1 to 2 days. The biggest mistake people make is assuming flavor is a luxury during a crisis. It is not. Flavor is what keeps people eating consistently. Consistent eating is what keeps people functional. Functional people make better decisions. That chain of logic goes all the way back to a $5 bottle in the back of your pantry. Store it in a cool, dark place. It does not need refrigeration. 1 bottle is enough to start. The next item is one that almost no stockpile video on YouTube will mention. And it comes directly from official FEMA guidance. Item 12. Multivitamins. The $15 item FEMA recommends and nobody buys. FEMA's official emergency preparedness documentation includes multivitamins on its list of recommended pantry items. Almost no YouTube preparedness channel covers this. Not one of the top-ranked videos on this exact topic mentions it. Let me explain why this matters more than most people realize. A standard emergency pantry diet is heavily weighted toward carbohydrates: rice, pasta, crackers, noodles, dry beans. These foods keep you alive. They provide calories and they fill your stomach. But they are not nutritionally complete. Extended diets that lack fresh vegetables and fruits, which is exactly what a crisis diet looks like, begin showing vitamin deficiency symptoms within weeks. Vitamin C deficiency, for example, begins producing symptoms within 4 to 6 weeks of near-zero intake. Early symptoms include fatigue, joint pain, and slow wound healing, exactly the things you cannot afford during a crisis. B vitamin depletion affects mood, energy, and nerve function. Iron and zinc deficiencies affect immunity. A 90-count bottle of a basic daily multivitamin, not the premium, not the gummy for kids, just a standard adult multivitamin with vitamin C, B complex, vitamin D, and iron, costs between $8 and $15. That is a 3-month supply. It weighs almost nothing. It takes up almost no space. And it bridges the nutritional gap that every starch-heavy emergency pantry creates. Pro tip: children's chewable multivitamins, and adult standard vitamins stored in your pantry together. Pregnant women and women of childbearing age should include folate specifically. This is not optional nutrition for that population. Store vitamins in a cool, dry, dark location. Heat and humidity degrade them faster than most people realize. The bottle in your hot garage in August is losing potency much faster than the label assumes. This is the item that separates a Survive pantry from a Function Well pantry. The difference is $15 and about 20 grams of weight. Now, before we continue, stop. Because the next item is the one that almost nobody prepares for, and without it, everything else on this list becomes significantly less useful. Item 11. Water purification tablets and portable filter, the item that makes everything else work. Every food on this list requires water to prepare. Rice needs water. Beans need water. Freeze-dried meals need water. Multivitamins need water to swallow. Oatmeal needs water. Pasta needs water. And every person in your household needs at minimum 1 gallon of water per day, just for drinking and basic sanitation. That is the CDC's official minimum recommendation. Now here is the part that most people have not thought through. In a significant disruption, a major storm, an infrastructure failure, a prolonged power outage, your municipal water supply can become unsafe within hours. Pressure drops in city water systems allow contaminants to enter pipes. Boil advisories go into effect. And if you are in a rural area, a well pump that requires electricity simply stops working. Most households have zero backup water solution. Water purification tablets, specifically sodium dichloroisocyanurate tablets, sold under brand names like Aquadebs, are one of the most cost-effective preparedness investments that exist. One tablet treats 1 liter of water. A pack of 50 tablets costs approximately $8 and treats 50 liters, more than 13 gallons. For a family of 4, that is 3 days of drinking water from a single $8 purchase. A portable water filter like a Life Straw or Sawyer Mini extends that capacity dramatically. A Sawyer Mini filters up to 100,000 gallons over its lifetime and costs under $25. These are not backpacking luxuries. They are household safety equipment. Waterborne illness, including Giardia, cholera, and cryptosporidium, is one of the top secondary health crises documented after natural disasters. The CDC tracks this across every major disaster event. You do not need to be in a developing country for contaminated water to become a problem. You need a broken pipe and 3 days without power. Store your water purification tablets in a sealed, dry location. Keep your portable filter clean and dry between uses. And separately, store at least 1 to 2 gallons of actual bottled water per person as an immediate reserve. Water is covered. Now let's talk about the first food that most people overlook at the breakfast hour. Item 10. Rolled oats. The Forgotten Breakfast Foundation. Name one emergency food that works as a hot breakfast, a cold no-cook meal, a thickener for soups, a soft food for infants and elderly, and can be stored in sealed Mylar bags for up to 30 years. That item is rolled oats. And it appears in almost no Stockpile video at the level it deserves. Here is the part most people get wrong. Instant oat packets from the grocery store, the ones flavored with maple brown sugar or apple cinnamon, are not what you want to store. Those packets have added sugar, powdered dairy, and artificial flavors that degrade faster. What you want is old-fashioned rolled oats. Plain. In a sealed container. They are genuinely versatile in a way that most dry grains are not. Here is the most underrated technique in emergency food preparation, the cold soak. Pour rolled oats into a container, add cold or room temperature water, let them sit for 30 minutes to overnight, and they soften into a fully edible meal with no stove, no fuel, and no heat at all. Add a spoonful of peanut butter, a little honey, and some salt, and you have a genuine breakfast that costs pennies and requires nothing except time. Oats also have a meaningfully lower glycemic index than white rice or pasta. This matters for diabetics, for people with blood pressure concerns, and for elderly household members. A 42-ounce canister of rolled oats provides roughly 30 servings and costs $5 to $7. For long-term storage, remove oats from their cardboard canister and transfer them to sealed Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or a food-grade airtight container. Store cool, dry, and dark. Rotate through every 1 to 2 years for best quality. Oats give you the morning. The next item gives you the sustained energy to get through the rest of the day. Item 9. Pasta and dry noodles, the connector food. There is a concept in emergency nutrition that does not get enough attention. Some foods just exist on their own, and some foods turn other foods into meals. Dry pasta and noodles are the definition of a connector food. On its own, a single 450-gram package of dry pasta provides roughly 1,600 to 1,700 calories depending on the variety. But that is not its real value. Its real value is what it does to everything else in the pantry. A small can of tuna eaten alone might barely cover one person. Add it to 200 grams of cooked pasta with a spoon of oil, some salt, and a squeeze of that apple cider vinegar from item 13, and it becomes a satisfying meal for 3. A cup of broth by itself is just liquid. Add pasta to it, and it becomes dinner. Here is the angle most people miss, and there is real research behind this. During prolonged stress and disruption, familiar foods reduce cortisol levels more effectively than nutritionally equivalent. In other words, a bowl of pasta does not just fill the stomach. A familiar, hot, recognizable meal genuinely calms the nervous system. For children who are confused and scared, for elderly family members who feel disoriented, and for adults who are simply exhausted, the comfort of a known food is not psychological weakness. It is a legitimate physiological resource. Pro tip: think in meal kits. Before a crisis hits, pre-assemble small labeled bags containing pasta, a small packet of oil, a seasoning cube, and a note about what canned item to add. When you are tired, stressed, and managing chaos, opening one labeled bag is far easier than mentally calculating what goes with what. Dry pasta stores well for 2 to 3 years in original packaging. Transferred to airtight containers or sealed mylar bags in a cool, dry, dark environment, quality holds even longer. Keep it away from heat, moisture, and anywhere insects can enter. The connector food. Next comes the item that bridges meals when you cannot cook at all. Item 8. Peanut butter and nuts, the ready-to-eat energy layer. Stop. Before we continue to the top 7 items, I want to make a specific point about this item that most lists completely skip. There is documented research in cognitive science showing that hunger, specifically low blood sugar, measurably degrades decision-making quality. Judges give harsher rulings before lunch. People accept worse negotiating outcomes when they are hungry. In a crisis scenario, where good decisions about safety, resource management, and family coordination are critically important, keeping everyone's blood sugar stable is not a comfort issue. It is a functional necessity. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter contains approximately 190 calories, 7 grams of protein, and 16 grams of healthy fat. It requires no electricity, no boiling water, no can opener, and no recipe. On a day when cooking feels impossible, when you are managing cleanup, checking on family members, dealing with uncertainty, and running on poor sleep, a few spoonfuls of peanut butter, nuts, almonds, cashews, walnuts, roasted peanuts serve a parallel function. Compact, portable, and useful when you are away from your kitchen at a gas station, in a car, or waiting somewhere unfamiliar. A small bag of mixed nuts is no longer a snack in that context. It is a buffer. One storage note most people do not know: natural peanut butter, the kind where the oil visibly separates and rises to the top, has a shorter effective shelf life than commercial processed peanut butter because the separated oil can go rancid faster once the jar is opened. If you are storing for emergencies specifically, commercial peanut butter in an unopened jar is actually the more practical choice, with a shelf life of 1 to 2 years. Nuts are more sensitive than they look. The natural oils inside them respond to heat, light, and air. If your stored nuts smell like old cooking oil, taste bitter, or have an unusual sharp odor, do not force yourself to eat them. The body knows. Keep peanut butter and nuts in a cool, dry, dark place. Rotate through them every 6 to 12 months. Match what you buy to what your family already eats. We are now in the top 7. And I want to be honest with you. The next item is one that does not get listed because it sounds boring. But its absence can make your entire food supply feel like punishment. Item 7. Salt, sugar, and seasonings. The palatability system. Imagine you have rice, beans, canned fish, noodles, and cooking oil. Your family has calories. But on day 3, everyone starts eating less. Not because they are not hungry. Because every meal tastes exactly the same. Flat, dry, colorless, and increasingly difficult to put in your mouth. That is the failure point most emergency pantries hit. A lack of the ability to make food edible. Salt is the foundation of this system, and not just for flavor. When the power is out and you are physically active, carrying water, cleaning up storm damage, managing the household under stress, your body loses sodium through sweat. Sodium is an electrolyte critical for fluid balance, nerve signaling, and muscle function. A small amount of salt in food and water during active days helps the body maintain a steadier internal rhythm. It is not just about taste. It is physiology. Sugar plays a different but equally important role. A small amount of sweetness in tea, oatmeal, or dry food triggers a comfort response in the brain. For someone who is tired, someone with a poor appetite, or a child who is frightened and reluctant to eat, sweetness is sometimes the small signal. Here is the pro tip that almost nobody includes in these lists: flavor rotation. Keep at least 3 or 4 different seasoning profiles in your pantry, not just salt. A soy sauce and ginger profile for Asian-style meals. A cumin and paprika profile for Latin-style seasoning. A garlic and dried herb profile for Mediterranean flavor. The base ingredients stay the same: rice, beans, pasta, canned fish. But the flavor changes completely. A meal that felt repetitive yesterday becomes genuinely different today because the seasoning changed. One bouillon cube can turn a pot of plain water into the base for 2 to 4 servings of soup, noodles, or beans. A set of 5 or 6 small jars of dry seasoning can change the flavor of dozens of meals while taking up less space than a single can of soup. Keep salt and sugar sealed and dry. Dry seasonings in airtight containers away from light, heat, and steam. Bouillon cubes wrapped and sealed in a cool location. The biggest mistake is stocking ingredients, but forgetting to stock the ability to make them worth eating. If you could only choose one seasoning to keep, salt, soy sauce, garlic powder, paprika, or bouillon cubes, which would it be? Tell me in the comments. Now let's talk about the hidden energy that powers the whole pantry system. Item 6. Cooking oil. The hidden calorie engine. 1 tablespoon of cooking oil contains approximately 120 calories. Let that sink in for a moment. A standard 750 milliliter bottle of vegetable oil contains roughly 50 tablespoons. That is 6,000 calories in a single bottle. By weight and volume, cooking oil is one of the most calorie-dense items you can store. Compared with a large bag of rice, a bottle of oil does not look impressive. But when your household is sleeping poorly, managing physical labor, stressed, and running on a disrupted diet, energy density matters enormously. Here is something most people overlook entirely. Fat is not just calories. Fat is the carrier for fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K. These vitamins require the presence of dietary fat to be absorbed by the body at all. If your emergency diet is very low in fat and you are relying on those multivitamins from item 12, some of those fat-soluble vitamins will pass straight through you if there is no fat in the meal to help absorb them. Oil solves this problem. There is also a texture and palatability dimension. A bowl of plain rice is dry. The same rice with a half teaspoon of sesame oil, a little salt, and some soy sauce is a completely different eating experience. For elderly family members who tend to eat less when food feels dry and unappealing, a small amount of oil in every meal can make the difference between adequate nutrition and a slow decline in caloric intake that compounds over days. On storage, different oils have meaningfully different shelf stability. Refined coconut oil is among the most shelf-stable options and remains solid at room temperature, which makes it easier to manage. Ghee, clarified butter, has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years at room temperature and does not require refrigeration, making it a valuable option that many people do not consider. Standard vegetable and canola oil typically last 1 to 2 years from production, though quality begins declining after opening. Keep oil sealed, cool, dark, and away from heat. A hot garage in summer is a fast way to turn a good oil rancid. If oil smells sharp, soapy, or metallic, it has gone rancid and should not be used. If you had to choose one fat to store, vegetable oil, olive oil, coconut oil, or ghee, which would it be? Leave your answer in the comments right now because I genuinely want to see which one this community reaches for. Item 5. Canned meat and canned fish. Within 24 to 48 hours of a power outage, a full freezer transitions from an asset to a source of pressure. The cuts of chicken and fish that you bought for your family's peace of mind suddenly become a countdown clock. Cook them quickly or lose them. Meanwhile, a can of sardines, tuna, salmon, or canned chicken sits exactly where you left it on the shelf. No refrigeration, no thawing, no urgency, no waste. A typical serving of canned fish or meat provides 20 to 25 grams of protein. In a crisis diet that leans heavily on starch, protein is not optional. It maintains muscle tissue, supports immune function, improves recovery, and sustains the feeling of fullness far longer than carbohydrates alone. Here's a note on variety that goes deeper than most videos go. Sardines offer omega-3 fatty acids and bioavailable calcium from their soft, edible bones, making them one of the most nutritionally complete canned options available. Canned salmon is similarly rich and pairs well with rice or pasta. Canned oysters are significantly underrated. They are one of the best dietary sources of zinc, which directly supports immune function, and they tend to be cheaper per gram of nutrition than salmon. Tuna is convenient and widely accepted, but there is an important distinction. Albacore tuna has higher mercury content than light tuna. The FDA recommendation is to limit albacore tuna to approximately 1 serving per week for adults and less for children and pregnant women. Light tuna, chunk light, skipjack, can be consumed 2 to 3 times per week within safe guidelines. If you have young children, pregnant women, or elderly adults in your household, this distinction matters and should guide your shopping choices. One practical point almost nobody mentions: check your can opener situation before a crisis arrives. An electric can opener is useless without power. A large can of food with no manual opener is just a heavy paperweight. Keep a reliable manual can opener stored with your emergency pantry items. Better still, look for canned fish and meat that come with pull-tab lids. They require nothing at all. Store canned food in a cool, dry, stable location. Before opening, always inspect the can. A swollen can indicates bacterial gas production inside. Do not open it. Heavy rust along the seam, deep dents at the seam, or any leaking are also disqualifying signs. When in doubt, do not eat it. Protein covered. Now we move into the top. These are the items that determine whether the whole pantry system holds together or falls apart. Item 4. Honey, the eternal pantry reserve. In 2015, archaeologists excavating ancient Egyptian tombs found sealed containers of honey, estimated to be over 3,000 years old. The honey was still edible. People in the ancient world did not have refrigerators. They did not have modern packaging or preservation chemicals. But they understood something about honey that we have largely forgotten in the era of expiration dates. Honey, stored correctly, is one of the only foods that essentially does not expire. The reason is not mystical. Honey has a water content typically below 18%. Below that threshold, bacteria and mold cannot reproduce. Honey is also naturally acidic, with a pH between 3.2 and 4.5, which creates an additional antimicrobial barrier. These two properties working together create a preservation environment that almost nothing can penetrate, as long as you do not introduce moisture from wet spoons. Condensation. 100 grams of honey provides approximately 304 calories. A spoonful of honey stirred into warm tea, spread on a cracker, mixed into oatmeal, or dissolved in warm water creates a quick, accessible energy source with a gentleness and depth of flavor that plain sugar simply cannot replicate. For someone who is tired, whose appetite is poor, or who simply needs a small sensory signal that life still has warmth and comfort in it, honey does something that no other item on this list does in quite the same way. Honey also has one of the highest barter values per gram of any pantry item. It is universally understood, widely desired, easily divisible, and does not require explanation. A small jar of honey is a significant social asset in an extended disruption. Here is the most important storage correction for most households. Crystallization does not mean honey has gone bad. Honey becoming thick, grainy, or changing to an off-white or golden solid is a completely normal physical transformation. It is still fully edible. To restore it to liquid form, place the jar in a bowl of warm water for several minutes. What actually destroys honey is moisture, a wet spoon introduced into the jar, condensation from temperature swings, or a lid that was not sealed properly. Raw honey has a slightly different profile than commercially processed honey. Raw honey retains more of its natural enzymes, pollen, and antimicrobial compounds, and may have a shorter liquid phase stability, but its long-term storage profile is equally impressive when kept dry. One critical safety note: never give honey to a child under 1 year of age. Honey can contain spores of Clostridium botulinum, which produces the botulism toxin in an infant's developing gut. This is a medical fact, not a preference, and it is not optional. We are in the top 3 now. These are the items most likely to determine whether everything else you have stored actually holds together. Item 3. Freeze-dried meals. The clarity layer here is a question that most people with a well-stocked pantry still cannot answer confidently. How many days of food do you actually have? Rice has to be measured. Beans have to be estimated by weight. Canned food has to be counted and divided. Cooking oil has to be portioned mentally. At 2 in the morning during a power outage, with children asking questions and no clear plan, doing all that mental math is genuinely hard. Freeze-dried meals solve one specific problem exceptionally well: clarity. Each pouch tells you exactly how many servings it contains, how many calories it provides, how much water it requires, and how long until it is ready to eat. In the middle of a chaotic situation, that kind of pre-portioned, pre-calculated certainty is worth more than people understand until they need it. Many quality freeze-dried meal products, marketed for emergency preparedness, carry shelf life claims of 25 to 30 years when stored in sealed, undamaged metal cans in appropriate conditions. Even half of that is an extraordinary length of usefulness for a food item. A modest investment in freeze-dried meals today may still be nutritionally viable through many years of future disruptions. But here is the detail that most buyers miss entirely, and it is an important one. The word serving on the label is not the same as a meal for one hungry adult. Many freeze-dried pouches that claim 2 servings actually contain 250 to 350 calories per serving. That means a 2-serving pouch might provide 600 total calories, less than a single substantial meal for an active adult dealing with a stressful situation. Read the calorie total per container, not just the serving count. There is a second critical point about freeze-dried meals that almost nobody raises: the water requirement. If a 4-person household is eating freeze-dried meals 3 times a day, each meal requiring 2 cups of water for rehydration, that household needs 24 cups, a full gallon and a half, just for cooking, separate from drinking water. Stack that against your water purification capacity from item 11 and make sure the math works before you depend on it. Pro tip: do not stock all freeze-dried meals from a single brand before tasting them. Quality varies significantly. Buy sample packs first, taste them with your family, and then stock the ones you will actually eat. Keep freeze-dried meals in a cool, dark, stable location. A hot garage, damp basement, or location with significant temperature swings will shorten shelf life dramatically. Once a pouch is opened, consume the contents within 1 to 2 weeks. Clarity covered. Now we get to the 2 items that quietly anchor every single meal on this list. Item 2. White rice. The foundation of the system. White rice is not exciting. It does not sound impressive when you tell someone you have 50 pounds of it stored in your closet. It is cheap, ordinary, familiar, and a little boring. And that is exactly why it works. 1 pound of dry white rice, approximately 450 grams, provides 1,600 to 1,700 calories depending on the variety. It is one of the cheapest calories you can buy in bulk. It cooks with just water and heat. It pairs with every protein on this list, every seasoning, every oil, every canned item, every broth, and every sauce. When there is rice, a single small can of fish feeds a family. A little oil, some salt, and a spoonful of soy sauce transforms it into a complete meal. Rice does not try to be the star. It makes every other item better. Here is the storage truth most people learn too late. White rice is more suitable for long-term storage than brown rice for one specific reason. Brown rice contains the bran layer, which holds natural oils. Those oils go rancid within 3 to 6 months in typical home storage conditions, even in an airtight container. White rice, with the bran removed, has dramatically lower oil content. In sealed mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, white rice can maintain quality for 25 to 30 years. The biggest mistake is treating storage as an act rather than a system. Buying a large bag of rice and leaving it in its original thin paper or plastic bag on a pantry floor is not storage. It is an invitation for moisture, insect infestation, absorbed odors, and accelerated quality loss. If you want rice to function as real emergency food, transfer it to food-grade airtight containers or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, store it in a cool and dark environment, and rotate it regularly. There is also a practical middle option worth knowing. Parboiled rice, sometimes called converted rice, retains slightly more nutrients than regular white rice because it is partially cooked under steam pressure before milling, which drives some B vitamins from the bran into the grain itself. It cooks slightly differently, but stores similarly to white rice and offers a marginal nutritional advantage. Do not only ask how much rice you have. Ask whether that rice is clean, dry, properly sealed, and actually usable when you need it. Those are different questions with different answers. One item left, and it is the one most people are most likely to underestimate. Item 1. Dry beans, the long-term protein foundation. 1 cup of cooked black beans provides approximately 15 grams of protein. But protein is only part of the story. That same cup also delivers 15 grams of fiber, significant amounts of iron, potassium, folate. In a pantry built primarily around rice, pasta, crackers, and canned goods, those nutrients are almost entirely absent. And in a prolonged disruption lasting not days but weeks, their absence is what the body begins to feel most deeply. You can maintain calories. You can feel full. But without protein, fiber, and essential minerals, physical and cognitive function gradually declines in ways that become measurable and dangerous. This is why dry beans have been a foundation food for human civilizations across every inhabited continent for thousands of years. Not because ancient people lacked better options. Because they recognized what worked. Cheap. Filling. Nutritionally complete relative to grains alone. Shelf-stable for years without refrigeration. Independent of supply chains once stored. Now here is the objection most people raise immediately. Beans take too long to cook. This is true, and it is not a reason to avoid them. It is a reason to learn 2 techniques. Rinse and soak your beans for several hours. Bring them to a hard boil for 10 minutes. Pour everything, beans and boiling water, into a wide-mouth insulated thermos. Seal it, wrap it in a towel, and leave it for 6 to 8 hours. The retained heat finishes cooking the beans slowly and completely with no additional fuel or electricity. It is quiet, efficient, and requires almost no active attention. The second technique is sprouting. Many types of dry beans and lentils can be sprouted using nothing but clean water, a jar, and 3 to 4 days of patience. Rinse, soak for 8 hours, drain and rinse twice daily. Within 3 to 4 days, living sprouts emerge from the dry seeds. These sprouts contain living enzymes and, importantly, higher concentrations of vitamin C than the unsprouted bean. In a prolonged situation where fresh vegetables are unavailable, sprouting beans is one of the few ways to introduce one specific recommendation: include lentils in your bean rotation specifically. Lentils require no soaking. They cook in approximately 20 minutes. 1 cup of dry lentils provides roughly 230 calories and 18 grams of protein when cooked. They have a mild flavor that works with almost any seasoning profile and are arguably the most practical legume for emergency cooking. Red lentils cook even faster and break down into a smooth, soup-like texture that works beautifully for households with elderly members or young children who need softer foods. For storage, mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, food-grade airtight containers, kept cool, dry, and dark. Avoid moisture above all else. It is the only real enemy of properly stored dry beans. Do not stock beans your family has never eaten. Try black beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, and lentils. Then keep the ones you can actually cook, and your family will actually eat. A pantry is not just stuff. A pantry is knowledge. Dry beans reward preparation most generously, but they require you to know how to use them before the day you need them. Here is what all 15 of these items look like when you see them together, not as a list, but as a system. There is an energy base, rice, pasta, oats. There is a protein layer, dry beans, canned fish, canned meat, peanut butter. There is a fat layer, cooking oil, nuts. There is a flavor and palatability system, salt, sugar, seasonings, apple cider vinegar. There is a medical and morale layer, multivitamins, hard candy and glucose tablets, instant coffee and comfort beverages. And underneath all of it, holding the entire system together, is water, purified, safe, and actually available. A pantry built this way is not built from fear. It is built from clarity, from understanding that a 72-hour disruption is not the end of the world. It is just an ordinary problem that an ordinary household, prepared in ordinary ways, can move through without panic, without crisis decisions, and without the specific quiet regret of wishing you had done just a little more. You do not need to buy all 15 of these items this week. You do not need to spend a large amount of money all at once. The most effective approach is one intentional addition at a time. This week, add one item from this list that you do not currently have. Next week, add one more. Build it slowly, steadily, and deliberately, the same way a good pantry actually holds up when it matters. Before you go, stay with me for one more moment, because I want to say something that most of these videos skip. Preparation done right is not about imagining the worst. It is about reducing the distance between the moment something goes wrong and the moment your household finds its footing again. Every item on this list is a small reduction in that distance. A can of sardines, a jar of peanut butter, a bottle of apple cider vinegar, a pack of water purification tablets. None of them are dramatic. All of them are real. If you are starting your pantry this week, or if this video gave you one item you had not thought about before, drop a 1 in the comments. That is all. Just a 1. I read every comment and it genuinely tells me that this kind of content is worth making more of. And if you want to know what to do after you have built this pantry, how to actually track it, rotate it, and use it before things expire, the next video covers exactly that. A 30-day pantry rotation schedule, how to label and organize everything on this list, and the one system mistake that causes most emergency pantries to fail silently over time. That video is coming, and if you do not want to miss it, you already know what to do. Until then, stay steady. Prepare with intention. And remember, when the stores are still full, preparation is a choice. When the shelves are already empty, that choice has already been made.